Thank you so much, Piyush. Hope everyone can see me and hear me okay. Once again, extending a very warm wishes for the Happy New Year 2023. All the indications are that this is going to be the year which would really take the businesses to the next greater height. Specifically, right here, I am sitting in Singapore. We're also welcoming the news that China has reopened, so the excitement in Asia Pacific is great. I just returned from a business trip in North America, and we're looking to see how we can extend the coverage there in North America as well. So with that, what I'll do today is to walk you through some of the learnings that we had over the last 5 years in terms of how we should be really looking at helping companies who are in the space of extended supply chain cross country, looking at either digitizing their export processes, or I will also cover a little bit about what they would do in terms of their import or procurement processes as well. So as we walk through, I would kind of provide you with some of the feelers in terms of what we have learned. The first and foremost a question that you may have is in terms of what is the market. So if you look at the extended supply chain market and specifically the use of enterprise blockchain technology, this market is growing from about 260 odd million from 2021 to about $3.15 billion in 2028. So this is massive. I do not know any other market which is growing at over 50% CAGR. It's a 51 point something CAGR. And I've been in the software industry for over 30 years now. And this is the research that was published by Zion Market Research. Later on, you would get a copy of this presentation. Please reach out to Piyush if you're interested in so. But there is also a link to the report. So there is a great momentum in this space. The players who did not have the right model in terms of monetizing, or be it a consortia-based model, or be it just to do the enterprise blockchain for the sake of doing it, have kind of either died their natural death or they have kind of fallen away, right? So that's why from the day one when we started Digitalization back in 2018, our focus was to work with the corporates to help them with the capability to digitize their network, both on the supply side as well as on the demand side, and enable them with the tool to create the network and manage the processes, which requires quite a lot of handoff between their parties, the business partners. So if you look at this, Asia Pacific region is expected to be the huge contributor in the fastest growing region in this forecast period. And this is a rocket ship. So whether you are a customer, whether you are a prospect, whether you are a partner, whether you are a fellow colleagues who have joined in from the community, I would love to join you into this rocket ship journey. And I think 2023 is the year. I get a sense, and we were listening last night to what is happening even in Davos. I think the forecast is going to be much better for the second half of this year, and we need to start planning for that right now. So I would invite you to participate in this journey. I would invite you to think about the applications that we have built using the platform that I'm going to talk about, and how this is going to help you to manage your KPIs much more better, both from a process efficiency side, cost efficiency side, as well as seeing how we can drive new business model innovation. We are behind those days where people were just trying to experiment. We have over 30 large corporate customers and banks who are actually in production for over more than 2 years. Using our platform. So we invite you to participate in journey. We invite you to submit your problem statement. We invite you to kind of have a look at it and join a gap workshop that we kind of give it to our qualified prospect for free of cost. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So who are we, right? So we are an inter-enterprise platform focused on resolving the supply chain issues for large enterprises and banks. For many, many years of my life, I worked in very large enterprise resource planning companies such as SAP, and before that in Oracle. and they were focused single-handedly to manage the enterprise from within the four walls of the boundary and managing their entire process. In some ways, we are looking at now extending that ERP concept or a business suite concept, as SAP tells it, to inter-enterprise, where you are kind of looking to see how you can create a business network with the underlying distributed ledger technology, which really facilitates the whole movement of data and documents with the highest level of security and auditability that is even possible today, with the level of technology that is out there underlying on distributed ledger, and enabling them to really create those multi-party private network to manage either your exports through the distributors or through to the end customers, or to look at the imports that you may need to do with multiple different suppliers and maybe the chain of the suppliers that you may have to manage your business. So the key aspects that we are delivering as part of the ready-to-use platform that we have called DLT Ledger is really focused on three simple words. And again, I want to put to record the limitation of the English language when you said digitization. I can't be, it may mean different things to different people. So what we are talking about digitization is to really looking at a path to go towards digitization, removing paper wherever possible in the journey of the cross-border import or export logistic processes that you're doing, and try to get to digital form of the document as much as possible. So that's the piece where we have built some assets which kind of helps to digitize those classical documents that you are kind of moving around with maybe FedExes or couriers that's going around today. Second piece is collaboration, and this is kind of a collaboration in the sense of a particular shipment, collaboration in the sense of execution of that order, collaboration in the sense of maybe that particular procurement that you're doing. And if I can get that collaboration going in that thick pipe that is needed when you are getting some stuff from, let's say, Vietnam, and then your end customer is in US, how does that collaboration look like for a particular shipment execution is what we are talking about, and we have built certain assets within the platform. And the final piece in the puzzle is around authentication. So fundamentally, when you are looking at primarily this trusted party working together to manage your import or an export process, you need to ensure that there's some bit of authentication that's coming in, which is kind of native to the platform, right? And that's where the distributed ledger technology and the component we built on authentication really helps to really get to the level above. Then you may do that with a standardized supplier portal, right? So digitization, collaboration, and authentication, and those are the key elements that we have used to build our platform, and that is really something that we believe that would be greatly useful to manage your export processes or import processes as we move forward. Now, let me kind of unpack a little bit about what is a multi-party transaction, right? So, and if you look at a corporate may have their process around moving goods, procuring certain raw materials from certain suppliers from around the world, getting into their manufacturing units, which could also be in the multiple different countries, and then manufacturing it, evaluating it, then probably distributing it to the distributors or through their own sales outlet. So the version of the corporate's private digital network is really envisaged as how do I mirror what I do today, both on the supply side and on the demand side, and how do I ensure that the key service provider who are important to me, such as my logistics, such as my transporter, such as my agent, the clearing agent, custom house agent, obviously the supplier, my people in my own plants, the quality certification, and then create my own private network to kind of more improve my process of interaction with those suppliers and the distributor, as the case may be. And that is a multi-party transaction. Now, a multi-party transaction lives in different shape and form in different systems. So in this case, if you are an enterprise, let's say Walmart would have that record in the Walmart's a ledger, if you will. And if you are a supplier to Walmart, then you would also have a copy of what you are required to keep within your own four walls, within your own ledger. And only the pieces which are needed for that particular shipment to be executed are authenticated and consented and shared on the private network. And that's the beauty of this. So this is not something where an SAP business suite, a person who has an access to it can create that in their SAP system, and then I'm connecting it and replicating it to their SAP system. It is also not like Ariba or Coupa, where you go in there centrally, register yourself as a supplier, and you provide all of that data to Ariba, all of that data to Coupa, and they would then go ahead and monetize those for their own purpose. It is about keeping the data where it belongs to. The ownership of data remains to the parties which are involved. It just helps you to facilitate on digitization, collaboration, authentication. That's a key piece where you see some of the struggles around the supplier portals. They have not taken off, primarily because suppliers don't want to give the data to the manufacturer, which maybe they would be able to monetize, or even to the software providers. And we have a very unique position in the market that we actually don't own any data. We don't keep any data. We are just an underlying network service provider. So we just provide this framework to the Walmart or to Procter & Gamble, to Unilever, to any of the manufacturers or consumer product companies or automotive companies who wants to actually start improving their process efficiency or export and import, and they could do so with their own network where data residency, data ownership, all of that is really remains as the business grows. And a lot of people today are not able to appreciate that software companies have come and kind of created those portals and marketplaces and sucked the data, which then they converted into data into oil and sold those data to that multi-billion-dollar valuation. No, and that's what the distributor ledger platform that we have built, Digitalization, allows you to continue to grow with your own kind of business model that you have with your key relationship, and help you digitize that as we move forward. And again, as Piyush mentioned, multi-enterprise supply chain business network platform. This is, by the way, a term that we've been closely working together with Gartner and the key analyst of Gartner, who is looking to see how his MQ could be actually modernized as well, because there are a lot of legacy players in that MQ as we stand today. And what we have built is a multi-layer platform, managed services, and application or the products, which can really be put to the use, in case of, let's say, export digitization in matter of few hours, or import digitization in matter of few hours. And if you have a particular multi-party use case, which you don't see this in this, again, apologies for a bit of a eyesore chart here, but if you have a specific requirement on, let's say, on ESG audit, which is very unique to your industry, we could actually configure this in a platform in a matter of few days. So it is something that we have not seen this available with any other current players. People ask me that, whom do you compare with? Where do you sit yourself? Are you sort of more like a existing legacy player which exists in this space? Do you do planning? Do you do forecasting? Do you do execution? We don't do any of the planning. We don't do any of the forecasting. In the supply chain execution space, there are already players who does certain things which is good enough. We actually look at the gaps that exist today. So we go and invite our customers to a gap workshop where we understand, hey, if you're doing an export process, tell me your export process and what is that you do today. And even the best of one of the Fortune 500 companies we are working with, they have 85 steps of that export process, and about 60% of those steps are manual, despite their multi-million-dollar investments in large-scale enterprise systems, right? So we are trying to see, okay, those manual interactions you do with your business partner, is there an ability for us to help you to create a foundation called network? And you create your own network, and you allow over a period of time those manual steps to be kind of automated. And that's where you see the process efficiency. You see some of the reduction in the core KPIs that you're driving, and I'll cover that, and basically set yourself for some business model innovation. So the low-code platform that we have built, again, we are probably the only one in the industry today which is built it grounds up, architected in distributed ledger. You may find a lot of no-code platform, low-code platform that exists for years. Again, those are legacy that have a technical debt, which is very difficult for you to recover because they've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. And largely they are like a BPM workflow type players who have been around in the industry, for 20 over years, as I said. And they just, appointed a smart marketing guy and who would have rewritten it to say, oh, it's a no-code platform, but there's a lot of technical debt. Instead, what we've done is we actually fundamentally taken a look at to say, is your problem area that you're looking to do, is this a multi-party a problem statement? Remember my transaction definition about multi-party transaction? Is this related to that? If it is so, then, who are the minimum viable parties which are needed to form that particular transaction to its execution? And how could you help build those collaboration pieces and digitize what is needed as part of that execution and authenticate along the process in the fastest way possible? So again, based on the analysis we have done, for example, we have looked at about 100 odd different types of multi-party application that exist just in the consumer product, automotive, and manufacturing areas. And we said, look, if we have to do this is now, again, we have a patented 10-step process where we qualify the use case to say, is this the multi-party use case? If not, please use any of the existing tools, the BPM workflow tools, to build your own application as you would typically do. But if it is multi-party, if it is requiring authentication, if it is requiring collaboration, and it requires a visibility and dispute resolution along the way with the level of auditability built in, then maybe we are the fastest one to build this application in less than 30 days. So again, I will repeat this. We could build, if you give us a problem statement which is beyond export and import, and you want to do something which qualifies our 10-step qualification process in terms of, yes, it requires a multi-party interaction. Yes, it requires authentication and collaboration. We could build this in less than 30 days. And reason we could do this is not just a PowerPoint, but you see the 12 different modules which underpin our Proteus platform, which is our IP, and that's why we have been now ranked as a multi-million dollar in terms of our latest valuation based on the last round. And those are the critical components, whether it's an authenticator, whether it's an cognitive document automation layer, whether it's a machine flow, whether it's a smart access, whether it's green door, supporting some of the exciting activities that is happening in the ESG and sustainability space, or looking at, really revolutionizing, working together with some of the key partners that we are working together right now, the largest consulting houses, on how they could realize the value of creating those multi-party applications much faster, at a lesser cost, at much better risk management from their delivery of their output to their customers with the DLT Ledger Network Builder. So this is again unique. There is none out there in the market who has done so. There are again, an independent assessment is going on with some of the largest reputed names in this space, and you would be welcome to know that we are being qualified as a key platform which can build some of those applications faster than ever before. So the key value prop that I would have for you today, if you have challenges in your export processes, or which is also called as outward logistics, or import processes, which is also called as inward logistics, or procurement, or distributor management, there are various kind of names that exist. You have two options, right? So you could either invite your own teams, your own internal IT digital teams, or you could invite any of the consulting SIs which exist in the market, and you can can give them the specification and they can build, right? At one point, if you look at total number of enterprise blockchain engineers, just among the top 5 SI companies in the world is over 90,000, right, as of last December. So there are enough engineers and architects sitting there who could build your application. They will charge you for T&M, they'll charge you for project management, consulting, delivery, 8-month projects, 4 months to go live, 12 months, then repeat business, etc. So that's the build part. Versus you buy something which is actually ready to use, which actually fulfills your challenges today and gives you the solution tomorrow. And that's where I think the decision needs to be made. So it's a software which it's sold as a subscription. It helps you to create your own network. And the moment you sign up with us, within 24 hours, your own private version of network is created, handed over to you for you to then manage your network, the entire training, the adoption, the whole 9 yards of getting you started. It's all provided to you, and you could just get started with what you wanted to achieve much faster than you wanted to build. So if you are looking to set your KPIs in 2023 and you have certain priority areas that you want to settle, I would urge you to invite you to respond to us. We would be very happy to partner with you, where we could maybe see some of those things in action. We are in January, maybe as early as in April, and then you can go to the second stage and you can expand and do something beyond, as opposed to waiting for a year and then not achieving your KPI for this year. Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about what you could do on supply chain and how you can apply the digital asset or Web3 into the supply chain area. And I think I wanted to kind of peel on a little bit more and tell you about what is the traditional view of the supply chain, which I think everybody knows. On the left hand side here, it's like a classical. If I come from SAP background, you could look SAP ERP, you can have SAP CRM, you can have supply chain, you can deploy Ariba's, and you can have some SAP Business Network, SAP Logistics, all of those good stuff you can do, and you can build a traditional supply chain, which kind of works, but it still, as we found out for a Fortune 500 company, 60% of the work still remains manual in as far as you need to look at execution of that shipment, execution of the transaction on an import and export process. If you move forward onto the Web3, you're looking at qualifying, are there multiple party involved apart from my own operations team, my own finance team, my own commercial team? Do I have an agent? Do I have maybe a transporter? Do I have a business partner, a supplier? Do I have a distributor? How do I work with them on a repeat basis, on a regular time frame? And how do I optimize that relationship today? Primarily, everything that we find happens in email, happens in phone call. Maybe there is some groups created on some of the collaboration channels, and that's about it, right? So we are looking to see if we could actually create a multi-party ledger, which could look at all the different user story of these different parties, and you could digitize, if you will, beyond your four walls for the benefit of not only you, but also to your business partners, so that you could all do it much better, reduce the errors, and reduce some of the penalties and delays that happens, and you could leave to the world of what I call a perfect order execution, right? In the world of the disruption that we live in. At the same time, we also realize that this issue of import and export is highly collaborative and highly interchangeable. So even though you may have a certain set procedure to begin with, but you may need to kind of pivot. And therefore, that's where the smart contract comes into the play. So smart contract, the way you could decompose that and look at some of the rules that you have, whether for your sales or your for purchase agreement, you can put that up in action. And the beauty of what we built is you have a resolve module. So if you have a change in your contract term, you can quickly come in and make that change in that rule using the rule box, the component that I showed you in the previous slide. And you could actually resolve some of the changes that you have while the shipment is in the flight. Now, that capability today is all manual. People will call up and say, oh, now it's going to take another 10 more days, or I need to add X number of more boxes, or whatever not. I need to do partial shipment, etc. All of that could really be resolved using smart contract and quick ability for us to kind of interact at the field level, if you will, and importing certain rules. And the good news about this is that every single interaction you do is audited in the ledger, and therefore it improves the entire business efficiency. In case of a dispute, it was about my email, your email got spoofed, email got compromised. None of that thing happens, and it is extremely safe, and it kind of helps you to probably resolve your dispute faster than ever before. So what are the applications? You may say, look, this looks all good, but what are the applications? I'm a manufacturer. I have my manufacturing base in Asia. I serve the markets in South Asia. I also do a little bit in Middle East. I also do some things in Europe. What can you help me with, right? So you look at, obviously, fundamentally, you're looking at defining who are the minimum viable party. It could be 2, minimum, you and your buyer, or it could be 3, or it could be 4. So there is no such, I want to debunk this myth to say that you need everybody to contribute and do some stuff. And that was the old message that was kind of disservice that consortia did, where you say, everybody needs to be there in order to make it happen and for their own benefits. I do believe that, minimum viable network starts with 2. So maybe you with your buyer or you with your seller, you can add the parties as you go along. It could be a logistics party, it could be a agent, it could be a transporter and others, and you can move forward. So in the vision of the connected supply chain network, as I discussed with my esteemed friends at Gartner, we're looking at how I can look at dividing, classic area of source, make, and deliver into area where there are gaps which are not fulfilled by existing softwares, whether it's E2 Open, or whether it's GT Nexus, or whether it's Coupa, Ariba, any of the planning systems or Project 44. They all, or One Network Enterprises, they're all trying to give you a very heavy loaded system on top of SAP, and do this 12 months implementation, give me millions of dollars, and I'll get one of those boxes sorted. For example, we are working with one of the large, again, a Fortune 500 company on the reverse logistic use case, which again, helps you to kind of manage the RMIs and, manage the returns that are happening, working together with multiple parties. Who are the parties? Their insurer. The insurer needs to come and say, this is return. Let me quickly get the money so that the leakage can be prevented by this corporate. At the same time, the customer is getting the free replacement for those RMAs. If you look at the sourcing and procurement on the import side, again, there's a huge amount of back and forth that happens with different types of suppliers, and suppliers again have an ABC curve. There are top suppliers who does maybe 80% of your work, but there's a long tail of suppliers. How do I kind of manage a better way of managing them rather than getting them to all into my portal, register them and leave it there, and then again still a shipment related visibility and exceptions are still handled outside my portals, or whether it's a Ariba or Coupa or anything that you may have built. On the fulfillment side, on the export side, it gets even more crazier because you may have distributors and you may have your own direct channels and you may have customers directly buying it from your web channels. And how do I make sure that my experience of not only selling to my export channels, but also kind of making sure the tracking of that and delivery at the same time, all of those visibility in the documents that needed is captured in one private network. So data and document together. You can move up the chain, and there's a lot of excitement. There was a lot of excitement about, let me track bananas, let me take oranges, let me track pineapples. They all disappear because, let me track coffee. There was no business case, right? So you have to look at the high value item that you want to track. Yeah, it does make sense to track alumina that is getting shipped from a large miner in Australia to United States, where somebody like 3M or Apple is actually using that. It does make sense. You're looking at a high value item, it does make sense. So tracking and provenance is in the eyes of what is that you want to track, what is that you want to create a provenance on, not just for the sake of it. And those companies have died and they've disappeared out of the market. We're just trying to track a little bit here and a little bit there, just for the sake of creating the excitement. So tracking and provision is kind of the next level, as you believe that you kind of sort your import and export. You want to automatically, the platform is built in such a way that as you kind of look at it, it automatically derives and provides you with the provenance and tracking. There's an interesting angle. I was in the US talking to a very large company's head of quality and enterprise health and safety, and they're looking to see how not just their own quality, but their external quality assessors. They're also now, the interesting advancement is made in the quality and inspection, where even the customer himself, they are providing feedback which needs to go in. So this quality authentication has become a big topic as it relates to customer service for a lot of those manufacturers, and that could be, again, a perfect use case for doing this on distributed ledger. There is a lot of excitement. In fact, just last week, we had a discussion on what we could do on the ESG audit with another large company out of Thailand, which is a very big Fortune 2000 company, to see how we can help them in their ESG audit-related requirements, tracking systemly. Again, this is not about just producing 125-page report and making sure that, and doing what I call a self-declaration of supplier, which is what a lot of companies are doing today. How can I go a step higher? Instead of doing a bilateral kind of a declaration by suppliers, can I have an independent distributed ledger but multilateral declaration, which kind of helps yourself, not just to smoothen that process, but also have the auditors to participate in generally, for regulatory compliance or operational compliance, and also then the financial to come in and, hey, I can give you a 100 basis point off, which today happens, if you give me this sustainability, tick, 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 I'll give you 50 basis point off. But there isn't a great tack that's been deployed, which really kind of help both the parties in terms of that green finance related initiative. So I think you could sense to see that there's quite a lot you could do once you have a base ready, which is what we believe is import or export, where you need to kind of build onto the base and get to the next level, as you can see. So the use case, double clicking on that to see, first and foremost is we would love to work with you if you are a company with some level of existing network, right? So, and you are sitting at the top end of the pie, right? So whether you're a consumer product company or automotive company or or a manufacturing company or a bank, you are kind of doing what you're doing. You are top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that industry, right? You already have an existing network, both on the supply side and demand side, you're trying to now digitize. Now, there was a lot of terms which supply chain colleagues of my previous company used to say, oh, let me create a digital twin, let me put an IoT in it, let me look at sensors and give you some satellite images and all that. We are not talking about that. We are talking about basically movements of goods, which has got data in the document, and there are multiple parties are involved, and how we can make that efficient, right? So digital network in this sense is really to just mirror what you are doing today, digitizing that, and maybe look at improving those workflows that you're doing today in a new way of doing it with this network, with the same deep grain identity and user management, which is available to you as an individual person. So let me give an example. If, let's say, a large company is buying cocoa from another large company, right? If they do so, then the large company who's supplying cocoa to this particular manufacturer would also have their own teams who are involved in managing that process. So the way we have created this network is not only you, who is the network owner, which is the manufacturer, who invites a business partner, which is a supplier. Supplier can also have their users and departments created, and there's a fine-grained security that you can apply to. So you're creating those celestial objects as part of your own network. And we built this network with a very open framework with all the level of open APIs, REST APIs available. So we can connect to other network that exists or that has got a maturity and option that's going on. The smart contract, which I already explained to you, that if you got a certain contract that you put together, which is like a long-term contract or a monthly contract, which has got certain set of conditions that it get executed, and there is a change in that condition, then how could I at a field level go and collaborate and enforce that change, if you will, with the auditability? Managing exception, again, we are the only one which has a built-in resolve module, which allows us to kind of quickly look at those exceptions. This is not just about, hey, let me automate that with an RP agent. No, this is not. This is about exceptions do happen, and how do I manage the exceptions, manage the expectation of either party based on the contract, and help them to really give a kind of a live look, not just a robot look, because a lot of our experience suggests people don't want to work with robots. People want to work with other people, because that's why people call or message or email and collaborate. And how do I kind of do a real-time collaboration on those exceptions through the resolve module, which is all, again, audited and documented. The alerts and notification is key. Again, in a multi-party network scenario, emails may get lost. The alerts and notifications stay within those environments, stay within those on UI for the business partners, and that's really helpful. Wherever they are, they can log in. So going deep into the what does the export and import digitization looks like, and what are the gaps on the export, coming to the key part of the session. If you look at an export process, there's largely, in most of the customer places, it is very paper intensive manual process and siloed communication. And let me tell you, the school of thought was that 4 or 5 years ago when we started, there would be one nirvana application that will come, and everybody will create this digital network, and the companies who are manufacturing or exporting, they're sitting there and saying we'll join that network, and it would be all happy. No, we always believe that it is the companies which are doing the business are focused on it. So if you are in the food, you are focused on what you can do on your export process, and you're looking to see how I can make it streamlined. A huge volume of exports to a number of different countries. How can I work with different distributors across the world? How can I manage those contracts and exceptions better off through, how can I get the pro forma invoice that I'm getting from those distributors or customers and manage that through my SAP systems or my ERP systems, and how can I manage the SOP better? And there is a ready-to-use app which kind of looks at the gap that exists today in terms of those manual interaction that happens outside the SAP system, in an Excel spreadsheet, in an email, in a WhatsApp messages, in a phone call. So we provide you what we call a network visibility kind of insight, which kind of is delivered to you. The network visibility insight is kind of collection of the network components that are working for you. So in this case, let's say distributors who are participating in that process. Maybe you have an agent who is also helping to ship the goods to make sure that it's been received. All of that insights are provided to you in the network insight. You would be able to see the status of that, the actual shipment status, the approvals, the insight, the real-time collaborations. And it just improves in one particular case, which I'll explain to you. We have a case study coming up later on. There was a dramatic improvement in the KPIs they were looking as part of the managing their export process, in terms of how many times my execution got delayed, and can I have a perfect order execution, which is what their head of exports had put in a challenge. Can we do that? Can we look at improving the efficiencies across other several KPIs that they've given us? And before and after we did that kind of assessment, and there was a fantastic improvement on those. To some extent, it is 10x improvement. Similarly, looking at the KPIs, as I mentioned, this is just a kind of a quick view, whether you're looking at exports by countries, by products, and you're looking at, do I have how much, can I reduce the fees or late payments or penalties that I pay? Can I have a perfect order execution, make sure that I don't do partials, etc. Similarly, if I flip the chain now to on the import side and looking at the procurement scenarios, where you again, you're maybe getting several of your suppliers sending you POs through your portals, which you may have put in place, or they may be sending it to you through your multi-channel system. Then again, there's a whole process around once you receive the PO, how do you work together with your manufacturing? How do you actually make the shipment documents? How do you communicate that to your agent, to your transporters, and shipping that across? That whole gamut of things is left untouched by existing players, and that's what we are trying to sort using our solution. And you could get maybe by category, key suppliers, you can get a little bit more collaboration also to look at some of the criticality of the different suppliers by different level of service level agreement that you're working with. You could also see visibility of the network. You could also see what I call supplier compliance strategy. This is quite useful for one of the other customers you're working together with. They could see average procurement cycle time, so based on supplier classification of small, medium, large. They are really looking at this to drive their behavior. And the good news is this is driven based on the independent shipment data that's been put in place in the network. So it is not I say, you say type of a thing. I sent an email, but you did not receive it. I sent a shipment, but you did not receive it. It's based on the actual SLA that logistic or a network provider would provide to you. And so the customer example that I wanted to give on the import process was a very, very large company, again, a Fortune 500 company in the consumer products sector, which has got a number of distributors. And they had a real issue in their outbound logistics. They wanted to prevent the stockouts. They wanted an on-time. They had an issue for on-time delivery. And then, obviously, they had issue in terms of onboarding new business partners. So using our platform, within a matter of few weeks, they were able to get live on this. And you can see here some of the real benefits that they've received. If you look at the usage, they had 16 distributors onboarded, 4 logistics providers, 2 intercompanies, and 2 bank within 45 days. And the execution of those orders or shipments were happening. And really the real value was 45% saving for the domestic distributors and 81% saving in terms of the international distributor. So significant life-changing kind of savings that we have shown this customer. And again, as we start, I mentioned the GAP workshop a couple of times. So what we do is we don't get into any of the solutioning in even first or second or third session. We basically help our customers to understand their current process. We have really highest level of consulting capability within our company, which allows us to kind of understand what the gaps are in your current import or an export or logistic processes. How do you measure that today with the set of KPIs? This is some of the best practices KPI with the work that we've done over a series of customers over the last 5 years. We kind of then document that as is, and then we see, is this something that is of a great value to you? And then we kind of present that value workshop output to the key stakeholders, get the buy-in from top end, and then only look at what the technology can do, right? So there's quite a lot of business workshopping and value sessions that we deliver. So these are just some of the examples of customers who are working together. But again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is some of the customers that we have been working with. Like I said, we have over 30 corporates who are working with us. We have over 60 banks who are participating and collaborating with us. We have even more than 100 partnerships which are out there, which is working together with us. And we are continuously looking at more and more partners who are in the adjacent areas, whether you're in the payment area, whether you're in some of those B2B marketplaces area where you are looking to connect and help in this journey for the corporate that we're looking at to do that network journey. We are more than welcome to work together with any new partners as well.